Product manager walks into a bar. This is the setup for a joke, but in order to tell the joke, I need to take you first through a metaphor. So, Emily, since you're here at the front, what is the shortest path between 2 points? It's not a trick question. That is correct. It's a straight line. And in this metaphor, A is your product and B is what it's supposed to do. Whatever your product is, whatever your responsibilities are, B is where you want to be, A is where you start. And in doing this, there are 4 challenges that we as product people need to take into consideration. The first one and most common, human and technical limitations. What do I mean with that? So think of Amazon, for instance. In a perfect world for Amazon, the distance between A and B would be non-existent. So the moment you realize you wanted something from Amazon, it would be flying through the window brought to you by a drone. The reality is that Amazon needs to find out what you want, when, how to send it, and they need to process all that. So in order to get through there, we need to literally make a bridge. That's the metaphor for bridging these human and technical difficulties. And you have many types of bridges, fancy, even fancier, and you will build different. Did I break anything? No. You will build different based on your engineers, the budget you have, your designers, timeframes, many things. But the important thing to remember here is that in the end, they all have the same function, but some of them will be slightly different to others. So we have human and technical limitations. Which one is the next one? Let's say that you've managed to build all the bridges you need and suddenly one of them collapses. A real life example, Pax technical debt maintenance, so the bridge collapses. Real life example, I Want to Listen to Believe by Justin Bieber, arguably the best record ever written. And Alex, who is a developer at Spotify, has released a patch that has just erased all Justin Bieber's discography. He says it's an accident. I will believe him. Okay. So before I actually get from A to B, we will need to clean up the mess, and then I will be able to go back there. The takeaway here, the difference between the first obstacle and the second is that this one would not exist if I had not built something before. So these are, let's say, within the bridges that I have. So we have human and technical limitations, bugs and technical debt, or maintenance, or problems from the first barrier. What is the third one? So let's say I have no bugs, all my bridges are fine, and then suddenly the powers that be, that is usually investors or lawyers, tell me like, no. Before you go from A to B, you need to go through these steps as well. What would be a real life example that we've all suffered recently? Oops, yes. Correct. So, and I picked GDPR because it's actually a non-business example, even though most of the ones we will face are business. But GDPR is a legal example of a lot of work that had to be put, adding steps to our A to B that have been very difficult. But let's say once you have them there, that would be the third obstacle. And which one is the fourth? Let's say that you have all your legal and business points on point. You don't have any bugs, you have all the bridges built, and suddenly, blam, your goal changes. I'll give you another real life example. Some of you might have heard of Bourbon. It was a mobile game kind of with social things and kind of similar to Mafia Wars. And it wasn't that popular, but it had a photo sharing feature. And the developers realized that that photo sharing feature was pretty popular. So they decided to become Instagram and ditch the game. So this would be an example of how you might have an idea of where you want to get with your product, but as it develops and as you see how people use it, you realize that actually my initial B wasn't the one that popular enough, let's say. So here we go, human and technical limitations, bugs, business changing product goals. So this is basically what we as product people need to mind. And we are the product superhero, so we can take care of it. Let's say, what's our goal? Get from A to B. So as product super people, we plot out, build, maintain the path from A to B, or we tell other people how to do it. So this would be the continuation of the joke. A product manager walks into a bar, prepares the food, serves drinks, watches the floor, totals the night tips. That's basically our life. We need to take care of a lot of stuff. And let's play a little game. Let's imagine that there you are up there on the left, and you have very clear A to B. You have some legal or business limitations that you need to take into account, and you have a barrier. You have a team of 3 senior developers. You can tell they're senior because they're wearing hard hats. And you path out the way, and great. It's great. Everything is working. You can sit down and relax. And then suddenly, horrible bug happens. So, right, you take it easy. You send out 3 of your developers to fix it. And by the time they're back, one of them has quit because he wants to work on an open source project. And you have a new business requirement. You take a deep breath. You build it, and by the time you're done, another bug happens between steps 1 and 2. So you send your 2 only developers, and while you're still fixing it, the first step breaks, and then you realize in horror after checking the data of the last month that not as many people are using your product as you thought they would be. So your investors come in and said, like, no, wait a minute, you need to also add another step. So you take another deep breath. You fix that, you go back, you realize in horror that the developer that quit is the one that knew how to build that bridge. So you do a horrible workaround, but it takes you there. And then the business person is insisting more, so you build that, and he leaves. But then 1 day later, he's back, and he says he has another business need. So and also other of your senior developer quits, and now you have a junior one. You can tell he's a junior because he doesn't wear a hard hat, and he has a Megadeth t-shirt. But you take a deep breath, you say like, okay, I'll fix that. So another bug happens. So, and so you get even more pressure from the investors because your initial or second B wasn't as big as you thought. And something else breaks because the junior developer didn't understand your specifications, and at that point, you're dead. So this is how the joke continues. So I think we are all relatively, well, not comfortable, but we've had the experience as product managers, those of us that have done that, or product owners, having a lot to do and not really knowing how to handle it. So the question is, why does this happen? Well, for starters, there's a lot of things that we need to mind and a lot of things at the same time. And how would we solve this? The most straightforward thing would say, like, bring someone else in. Yeah, that's correct. But how do you divide the work? I don't know if you had the chance of working on exactly the same product with someone that is exactly doing the same thing, but it's a mess because if you don't coordinate properly, sometimes you'll do the work twice, or you'll have different ideas of how something is solved, and it's not comfy. So let's think on how we build products in order to decide how to divide the work. So here's a product super person. What is the first thing that we think when we're working on a product? Where do I want to get? Then we think of the obstacles we need to take into consideration. Then we think of the business needs. And then, of course, we speak with our investors to see if we have the money and the time. And we plot out the path. And this is fine, and this works from this distance. But in order to fix these steps from 2 to 3, so to speak, we cannot do it properly from this distance. Again, we need to zoom in. And from here, we need to speak with engineers. We need to decide what bridge we build. We need to write specifications, and we need to get it built. Because this is the most efficient way of doing it and the perspective that you need in order to do it properly. Problem is that if you're the product super person that needs to mind everything, and you're taken from here to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, at one point, you're dead again. Because the change of focus all the time is going to kill you. So for me, the key is to divide it into things that won't force you to change focus so much. That would be operational challenges, tactical challenges, and strategic challenges. And I want to introduce to you Mr. or Miss PM, Mr. or Miss PO, and now you're all thinking like, oh my God, there's another type of product person that I hadn't heard about. Which one is this? But no, sorry, it's a team lead. And for those of you that haven't had the chance of working with team leads can be developers, but not always. And they're basically the technical backbone of a team. And at this point, I could end the talk, and you would have some useful way of dividing how to work in a product. I would call like a triumvirate. But the reality as product people is that it's not so clean. Like these nice boxes don't really fit like that. It's more a gradient. The tasks don't really fall exactly into each of their places. They're more like this. And the roles that each of us, so product manager, product owner, and team lead have to fulfill are more like this. And there's overlap, and that is fine, because that's the other thing. As product managers, product owners, whatever we are, we need to be able to walk around that scope. The problem is when we have to walk around too much. And I know that some of you will tell me like, yeah, but I want to be a product superhero. And it's fine. This can be done as long as you have, let's say, you can walk around from left to right as long as you don't need to walk too much up and down. Because the moment you have too many tasks, you're dead again. And at that point, you need to either get another PO, a PM. You need to divide the task and you need to do it in a meaningful way. And if you get even more work, then it might be a good point to get a team lead, PO, PM. And there's something about this and about the progression of going from controlling all the path and then controlling just a bit of it and having to share ownership with other people, which is something that I've seen in many POs or many PMs, which is the difficulty of letting go and the difficulty of giving up control to someone else. And as the company or the product you work in grows, you're going to be more here than here. Well, here, let's say. Just because of the nature of the things we build are complex, and you need to take that leap of faith in order to say like, okay, I won't control the whole operational part, but it's fine. I know I trust the person that is there, and therefore the communication needs to happen and the knowledge needs to be shared at that level. Not so much as the execution level, but at the top level. So that we can turn this joke into this one. Thank you very much.